Scriptures speak on the soul. The Atman pervades all like butter hidden in milk. He is the source of self-knowledge and ascetic fervor. This is the Brahman teaching, the highest goal. This is the Brahman teaching, the highest goal. Yajurveda. The inspired self is not born, nor does he die. He springs from nothing and becomes nothing, unborn, permanent, unchanging, primordial. He is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. Yajurveda. Now the teaching concerning the Atman. The Atman is below, it is above, it is behind, it is before, it is in the south, it is in the north. The Atman indeed is all that is. He who sees, reflects, and knows this, he has joy in the Atman. Samaveda. Verily he is pure, steadfast, and unswerving, stainless, unagitated, desireless, fixed like a spectator, and self-abiding. As an enjoyer of righteousness he covers himself with a veil made of qualities, yet he remains fixed, yea, he remains fixed. Yajurveda. He who with the truth of the Atman unified perceives the truth of Brahman as with a lamp, who knows God the unborn, the stable, free from all forms of being, is released from all fetters. Yajurveda. A part of infinite consciousness becomes our own finite consciousness, with powers of discrimination and definition, and with false conceptions. He is in truth Prajapati and Vishva, the source of creation and the universal in us all. The spirit is consciousness and gives consciousness to the body. He is the driver of the chariot. Yajurveda. He who dwells in the light yet is other than the light, whom the light does not know, whose body is the light, who controls the light from within, he is the Atman within you. Yajurveda. Pure consciousness taking form as knowledge and action is present in the soul everywhere and always, for the soul is universal in its unfettered state. Mrigendra Agama. The three impurities are Anava, Maya, and the one caused by actions. Suprabheda Agama. When the state is attained where one becomes Shiva, the malas, the bonds diverse, mental states, and experiences that arose for the individualized soul will all fade like the beams of the moon in the presence of the rising sun. Tirumantiram. When Jiva attains the state of neutrality to deeds good and evil, then does divine grace in Guru form descend, remove attributes all, and implant jnana that is unto a heavenly cool shade. The Jiva is without egoity, and the impurities three are finished. He is Shiva who all this does. Tirumantiram. In the primal play of the Lord were jivas created, enveloped in mighty malas were they. Discarding them they realized themselves and besought the feet of their hoary Lord. Thus they became Shiva with birth no more to be. Tirumantiram. A goldsmith fashions several ornaments out of gold, so God, the great goldsmith, makes many ornaments, different souls out of the one universal spirit. Nachintanai. The Atman is eternal. This is the conclusion at which great souls have arrived from their experience. Nachitanai. Samsara Mandala, karma and rebirth. Ganesha is the lord of obstacles and ruler of dharma. Seated upon his throne, he guides our karmas through creating and removing obstacles from our path. We seek his permission and blessings in every undertaking. Om. How do Hindus understand karma? Sloka 31. Karma literally means deed or act, and more broadly names the universal principle of cause and effect, action and reaction, which governs all life. Karma is a natural law of the mind, just as gravity is a law of matter. Om. Bhashya. Karma is not fate, for man acts with free will, creating his own destiny. The Vedas tell us, if we sow goodness, we will reap goodness. If we sow evil, we will reap evil. Karma refers to the totality of our actions and their concomitant reactions in this and previous lives, all of which determines our future. It is the interplay between our experience and how we respond to it that makes karma devastating or helpfully invigorating. The conquest of karma karma lies in intelligent action and dispassionate reaction. Not all karmas rebound immediately. Some accumulate and return unexpectedly in this or other births. The several kinds of karma are personal, family, community, national, global, and universal. Ancient rishis perceived personal karma's threefold edict. The first is sanchita, the sum total of past karmas yet to be resolved. The second is prarabdha, that portion of sanchita to be experienced in this life. Kriyamana, the third type, is karma we are currently creating. The Vedas propound. Here they say that a person consists of desires, and as is his desire, so is his will. As is his will, so is his deed. Whatever deed he does, that he will reap. Om Namah Shivaya. Is there good karma and bad karma? Sloka 32. In the highest sense, there is no good or bad karma. All experience offers opportunities for spiritual growth. Selfless acts yield positive, uplifting conditions. Selfish acts yield conditions of negativity and confusion. Om. Bhashya, karma itself is neither good nor bad, but a neutral principle that governs energy and motion of thought, word, and deed. All experience helps us grow. Good loving actions bring to us lovingness through others. Mean selfish acts bring back to us pain and suffering. Kindness produces sweet fruits called punya. Unkindness yields spoiled fruits called papa. As we mature life after life, we go through much pain and joy. Actions that are in tune with dharma help us along the path, while adharmic actions impede our progress. The divine law is whatever karma we are experiencing in our life is just what we need at the moment, and nothing can happen but that we have the strength to meet it. Even harsh karma, when faced in wisdom, can be the greatest catalyst for spiritual unfoldment. Performing daily sadhana, keeping good company, pilgrimaging to holy places, seeing to others' needs, these evoke the higher energies, direct the mind to useful thoughts, and avoid the creation of troublesome new karmas, the Vedas explain. According as one acts, so does he become. One becomes virtuous by virtuous action, bad by bad action. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the process of reincarnation? Sloka 33. Reincarnation, punarjanma, is the natural process of birth, death, and rebirth. At death we drop off the physical body and continue evolving in the inner worlds in our subtle bodies until we again enter into birth. Om. Bhashya, through the ages, reincarnation has been the great consoling element within Hinduism, eliminating the fear of death, explaining why one person is born a genius and another an idiot. We are not the body in which we live, but the immortal soul which inhabits many bodies in its evolutionary journey through samsara. After death we continue to exist in unseen worlds, enjoying or suffering the harvest of earthly deeds, until it comes time for yet another physical birth. Because certain karmas can be resolved only in the physical world, we must enter another physical body to continue our evolution. After soaring into the causal plane, we enter a new womb. Subsequently, the old manomaya kosa is slowly sloughed off and a new one created. The actions set in motion in previous lives form the tendencies and conditions of the next. Reincarnation ceases when karma is resolved, God is realized, and moksha attained. The Vedas say, after death, the soul goes to the next world bearing in mind the subtle impressions of its deeds, and after repairing their harvest, returns again to this world of action. Thus he who has desires continues subject to rebirth. Om Namah Shivaya. How should we view death and dying? Sloka 34. Our soul never dies, only the physical body dies. We neither fear death nor look forward to it, but revere it as a most exalted experience. Life, death, and the afterlife are all part of our path to perfect oneness with God. Om. Bhashya. For Hindus, death is nobly referred to as Mahaprasthana, the great journey. When the lessons of this life have been learned and karmas reach a point of intensity, the soul leaves the physical body, which then returns its elements to the earth. The awareness, will, memory, and intelligence, which we think of as ourselves, continue to exist in the soul body. Death is a most natural experience not to be feared. It is a quick transition from the physical world to the astral plane, like walking through a door, leaving one room and entering another. Knowing this, we approach death as a sadhana, as a spiritual opportunity, bringing a level of detachment which is difficult to achieve in the tumult of life, and an urgency to strive more than ever in our search for the divine self. To be near a realized soul at the time he or she gives up the body yields blessings surpassing those of 1,008 visits to holy persons at other times. The Vedas explain, as a caterpillar coming to the end of a blade of grass draws itself together in taking the next step, so does the soul in the process of transition strike down this body and dispel its ignorance. Om Namah Shivaya. How does one best prepare for death? Sloka 35. Blessed with the knowledge of impending transition, we settle affairs and take refuge in japa, worship, scripture, and yoga, seeking the highest realizations as we consciously, joyously release the world. Om Namah Shivaya. Bhashya. Before dying, Hindus diligently fulfill obligations, make amends, and resolve differences by forgiving themselves and others, lest unresolved karmas bear fruit in future rebirths. That done, we turn to God through meditation, surrender, and scriptural study. As a conscious death is our ideal, we avoid drugs, artificial life extension, and suicide. Suicide only postpones and intensifies the karma one seeks escape from, requiring several lives to return to the evolutionary point that existed at the moment of suicide. In the cases of terminal illness, under strict community regulation, tradition does allow pranayopavesa, self-willed religious death by fasting. When nearing transition, if hospitalized, we return home to be among loved ones. In the final hours of life, we seek the self-God within and focus on our mantra as kindred keep prayerful vigil. At death, we leave the body through the crown chakra, entering the clear white light and beyond in quest of videhamukti. The Vedas affirm, when a person comes to weakness, be it through old age or disease, he frees himself from these limbs just as a mango, a fig, or a berry releases itself from its stalk. Om Namah Shivaya. Scripture speaks of samsara, desireless, wise, immortal, self-existent, full of bliss, lacking in nothing, is the one who knows the wise, unaging, youthful Atman. He fears not death. Atharva Veda. He, however, who has not understanding, who is unmindful and ever impure, reaches not the goal, but goes on to reincarnation. He, however, who has understanding, who is mindful and ever pure, reaches the goal from which he is born no more. Yajurveda. Go, my breath, to the immortal breath. Then may this body end in ashes. Remember, O my mind, the deeds of the past. Remember the deeds, remember the deeds. Yajurveda. O Bhagavan, verily this body is mortal. It has been appropriated by death, but it is the standing ground of that deathless, bodiless self, Atman. Verily, he who is incorporate has been appropriated by pleasure and pain. Verily, there is no freedom from pleasure and pain for one while he is incorporate. Verily, while one is bodiless, pleasure and pain do not touch him. Samaveda. Through the ripening of the fruits of his actions, he does not attain any rest. Like a worm caught within a whirlpool, the desire for liberation arises in human beings at the end of many births, through the ripening of their past virtuous conduct. Yajurveda. He lives as long as he lives, then when he dies, they carry him to the fire. His fire, in truth, becomes the fire, the fuel, smoke, the smoke, flame, the flame, coals, the coals, sparks, the sparks. In this fire the gods offer a person. From this oblation the man arises, having the color of light. Yajurveda. Thus acting from the principle of Maya itself down to the lowest level, karma, even when it manifests as good, is an obstacle still, because it is not toward liberation that it leads. Karma does not dissolve without its various fruits being tasted and consumed. Mrigendra Agama, a twice-born gone to the end of the Veda, knowing that life is impermanent, may abandon the body, thereby fasting to death according to prescription. After worshipping the gods and honoring the munis, the Siddha may go to heaven, the eternal realm of Brahma. Mahabharata. Even as the snake sloughs off its skin, even as the bird leaves its shell, even as in its waking state the jiva forgets happenings of the dream state, thus does jiva from one body to another migrate until, with grace of hara, it reaches where it is destined to be, and there experiences the two karmas, good and evil, tirumantiram. I pray thee for undying love, I pray thee for the birthless state, but were I to be born again, for the grace of never forgetting thee, still more do I pray to be at thy feet, singing joyfully while thou dancest, Tirumurai. All suffering recoils on the wrongdoer himself. Therefore, those who desire not to suffer refrain from causing others pain. If a man inflicts sorrow on another in the morning, sorrow will come to him unbidden in the afternoon. Tirukural. The life of my life, whose nature 'tis to hold the fire in his hand, essence of truth of purest gold, who neither comes nor goes, the mighty one who doth all souls pervade in this great world. For those who thus meditate on him, all future births will end. Nachintanai. Sanmarga Mandala, the way to liberation. Bilva is the Baal tree. Its fruit, flowers, and leaves are all sacred to Shiva, liberation's summit. Planting Eagle Marmelos trees around home or temple is sanctifying, as is worshipping a linga with Bilva leaves and water. Om. What are the four stages on the path? Sloka 36. The path of enlightenment is divided naturally into four stages: Charya, virtue and selfless service; Kriya, worshipful; Sadhanas, yoga, meditation under a guru's guidance; and Jnana, the wisdom state of the realized soul. Om. Bhashya. Charya, Kriya, Yoga, and Jnana are the sequence of the soul's evolutionary process, much like the natural development of a butterfly from egg to caterpillar, from caterpillar to pupa, and then the final metamorphosis to butterfly. These are four padas, or stages, through which each human soul must pass in many births to attain its final goal. Before entering these spiritual stages, the soul is immersed in the lower nature, the Anava Marga, or self-centered path, bound in fear and lust, hurtful rage, jealousy, confusion, selfishness, consciencelessness, and malice. Then it awakens into Charya, unselfish religious service, or Karma Yoga. Once matured in Charya, it enters Kriya, devotion, or Bhakti Yoga, and finally blossoms into Kundalini Yoga. Jnana is the state of enlightened wisdom reached toward the path's end as a result of self-realization. The four padas are not alternative ways, but progressive cumulative phases of a one path. Sanmarga, the Tirumantaram, says, being the life of life is splendorous Jnana worship, beholding the light of life is great yoga worship, giving life by invocation is external worship, expressing adoration is charya. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of the Charyapada? Sloka 37. Charya is the performance of altruistic religious service and living according to traditional ethical conduct and culture, by which the outer nature is purified. It is the stage of overcoming basic instinctive patterns. Om. Bhashya. Charya, literally conduct, is the first stage of religiousness and the foundation for the next three stages. It is also called the Dasa Marga, meaning path of servitude, for here the soul relates to God as servant to master. The disciplines of Charya include humble service, attending the temple, performing one's duty to community and family, honoring holy men, respecting elders, atoning for misdeeds, and fulfilling the 10 classical restraints called yamas. Within a strong society, one performs charya whether he wants to or not. Young or rebellious souls often resist and resent, whereas mature souls fulfill these obligations most naturally. Right behavior and self-sacrificing service are never outgrown. The keynote of charya or karma yoga is Siva, religious service given without the least thought thought of reward, which has the magical effect of softening the ego and bringing forth the soul's innate devotion. The Tirumantaram explains the simple temple duties: lighting the lamps, picking flowers, lovingly polishing the floors, sweeping, singing the Lord's praise, ringing the bell, and fetching ceremonial water. These constitute the Dasa Marga, Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of the Kriya Pada? Sloka 38. Kriya is joyous and regular worship, both internal and external, in the home and temple. It includes a puja, japa, penance, fasting, and scriptural learning, by which our understanding and love of God and gods deepen. Om. Bhashya. Hinduism demands deep devotion through bhakti yoga in the Kriya Pada, softening the intellect and unfolding love. In Kriya, the second stage of religiousness, our sadhana, which was mostly external in Charya, is now also internal. Kriya, literally action or rite, is a stirring of the soul and awareness of the divine, overcoming the obstinacy of the instinctive intellectual mind. We now look over the deity image not just as carved stone, but as the living presence of the god. We perform ritual and puja not because we have to, but because we want to. We are drawn to the temple to satisfy our longing. We sing joyfully. We absorb and intuit the wisdom of the Vedas and Agamas. We perform pilgrimage and fulfill the sacraments. We practice diligently the 10 classical observances called niyamas. Our relationship with God in Kriya is as a son to his parents, and thus this stage is called the Satputra Marga. The Tirumantaram instructs puja, reading the scriptures, singing hymns, performing japa, and unsullied austerity, truthfulness, restraint of envy, and offering of food. These and other self-purifying acts constitute the flawless Satputra Marga. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of the Yoga Pada? Sloka 39. Yoga is internalized worship which leads to union with God. It is the regular practice of meditation, detachment, and austerities under the guidance of a Satguru, through whose grace we attain the realization of Parashiva. Om. Bhashya. Yoga union is the process of uniting with God within oneself, a stage arrived at through perfecting Charya and Kriya. As God is now like a friend to us, yoga is known as the Shakamarga. This system of inner discovery begins with asana, sitting quietly in yogic posture, and pranayama, breath control. Pratyahara, sense withdrawal, brings awareness into dharana, concentration, then into dhyana, meditation. Over the years, under ideal conditions, the kundalini fire of consciousness ascends to the higher chakras, burning the dross of ignorance and past karmas. Dhyana finally leads to ecstasy, first to Savikalpa Samadhi, the contemplative experience of Satchitananda, and ultimately to Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Parashiva. Truly, a living Satguru is needed as a steady guide to traverse this path. When yoga is practiced by one perfected in Kriya, the gods receive the yogi into their midst through his awakened fiery kundalini. The Vedas enjoin the yogi, with earnest effort, hold the senses in check, controlling the breath, regulate the vital activities. As a charioteer holds back his restive horses, so does a persevering aspirant restrain his mind. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of the Jnanapada? Sloka 40. Jnana is divine wisdom emanating from an enlightened being, a soul in its maturity, immersed in Shivaness, the blessed realization of God. While living out earthly karma, jnana is the fruition of yoga tapas. Om Namah Shivaya. Bhashya. The instinctive mind in the young soul is firm and well knit together. The intellectual mind in the adolescent soul is complicated, and he sees the physical world as his only reality. The sub-superconscious mind in the mystically inclined soul, well perfected in Kriya, longs for realization of Shiva's 2 perfections, Satchitananda and Parashiva. Through yoga, he bursts into the superconscious mind, experiencing bliss, all-knowingness, and perfect silence. It is when the yogi's intellect is shattered that he soars into Parashiva and comes out a Jnani. Each time he enters the unspeakable nirvikalpa samadhi, he returns to consciousness more and more the knower. He is the liberated one, the jivamukta, the epitome of kaivalya, perfect freedom, far-seeing, filled with light, filled with love. One does not become a jnani simply by reading and understanding philosophy. The state of jnana lies in the realm of intuition, beyond the intellect. The Vedas say, having realized the self, the rishis, perfected souls, satisfied with their knowledge, passion-free, tranquil, those wise beings, having attained the omnipresent on all sides, enter into the all itself. Om Namah Shivaya. Scriptures speak of liberation. Like the household fire, devotees seek the glory of the Lord even from afar and enshrine it in their inner chamber for enlightenment. The glory of our Lord is full of splendor, all illuminative and worthy to be honored in every heart. Rig Veda. For the great soul, the surest way to liberation is the conviction that I am Brahman. The two terms, what leads to bondage and what leads to liberation, are the sense of mindness and the absence of the sense of mindness. Yajurveda. When the nets of dispositions, good and bad, are dissolved, without any residue, when the accumulated deeds, virtuous and vicious, are completely destroyed to the very roots, the past and the future alike, owing to the removal of all impediments, bringing about the direct and immediate perception of Brahman as of Amalaka fruit on the palm of the hand, when the knower of Brahman becomes one liberated while in life. Yajurveda. He remains aloof, but not aloof, in the body, but not in the body. His inmost self becomes the all-pervading, having purified his heart and accomplished his perfect thinking. The yogin sees, I am the all, the highest bliss. Yajurveda. When the yogin unites his breath with Om, as is united with the all in manifold ways, it is called yoga. This oneness of breath, mind, and senses, the renunciation of all existence, this is termed yoga. Yajurveda. When cease the five sense knowledges together with the mind, and the intellect stirs not, that, they say, is the highest course. Yajurveda. It should be known that effort for yogic realization by yogis must proceed in 8 steps: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyadara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Prabheda Agama. He alone is learned, he alone is fortunate and successful, whose mind is no longer unstable as air, but is held firm. That is the way to liberation. That is the highest value. That is wisdom. That is strength. And that is the merit of those who seek. Devikalotara Agama. Never does a man attain moksha by his own skill, by no means other than by the grace of Shiva, the dispeller of evil, is such an attainment possible. Poshkara Agama. To see him, to adore him, to meditate on him, to touch him, to sing of him, to bear his holy feet on humbled head, they that render devotion to Guru in diverse ways, thus they indeed walk the sun marga that to liberation leads. Tirumantiram. Self-control will place a man among the gods, but the lack of it will lead him into deepest darkness. Tirukoval. The one entity, blissful, entire, and all-pervading, alone exists, and nothing else. He who constantly realizes this knowledge is freed from death and the sorrow of the world wheel. Shiva Samhita. Listen while I tell you the path to liberation, truth, patience, calmness, and discipline of self, discrimination between the eternal and the passing, devotion to the humble servants of the Lord, rising in the early morning and bathing before daybreak, repeating in the way prescribed the flawless letters 5, worshipping the Guru's feet, applying holy ash, eating but when hungry, with the whole heart giving praise. Nachintanai. Shivamaya Upanishad, the world. Triloka Mandala, the 3 worlds. Padma is the lotus flower. Nilumbo Nucifera, perfection of beauty, associated with deities and the chakras, especially the 1,000-petaled Sahasrara. Rooted in the mud, its blossom is a promise of purity and unfoldment. Om. Where did this universe come from? Sloka 41. Supreme God Shiva created the world and all things in it. He creates and sustains from moment to moment every atom of the seen physical and unseen spiritual universe. Everything is within him. He is within everything. Aum. Bhashya. God Shiva created us. He created the earth and all things upon it, animate and inanimate. He created time and gravity, the vast spaces and the uncounted stars. He created night and day, joy and sorrow, love and hate, birth and death. He created the gross and the subtle, this world and the other worlds. There are three worlds of existence, the physical, subtle, and causal, termed Bhuloka, Antarloka, and Shivaloka. The creator of all, Shiva himself, is uncreated. As Supreme Mahadeva, Shiva wills into manifestation all souls and all form, issuing them from himself like light from a fire or waves from an ocean. Rishis describe this perpetual process as the unfoldment of 36 tattvas, stages of manifestation from the Shiva tattva, Parashakti, and Nada to the 5 elements. Creation is not the making of a separate thing, but an emanation of himself. Lord Shiva creates, constantly sustains the form of his creations, and absorbs them back into himself. The Vedas elucidate, as a spider spins and withdraws its web, as herbs grow on the earth, as hair grows on the head and body of a person, so also from the imperishable arises this universe. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of the physical plane? Sloka 42. The physical plane, or Bhuloka, is the world of gross or material substance in which phenomena are perceived by the 5 senses. It is the most limited of worlds, the least permanent, and the most subject to change. Om. Bhashya. The material world is where we have our experiences, manufacture karma, and fulfill the desires and duties of life in a physical body. It is in the Bhuloka that consciousness is limited, that awareness of the other 2 worlds is not always remembered. It is the external plane, made of gross matter, which is really just energy. The world is remarkable in its unending variety and enthralling novelty. Mystics call it the unfoldment of Prakriti, primal nature, and liken it to a bubble on the ocean's surface. It arises, lives, and bursts to return to the source. This physical world, though necessary to our evolution, is the embodiment of impermanence, of constant change. Thus we take care not to become overly attached to it. It is mystically subjective, not objective. It is dense, but not solid. It is sentient, even sacred. It is rocks and rainbows, liquid, gas, and conflagration, all held in a setting of space. The Vedas affirm, the knower, the author of time, the possessor of qualities in all nature. It is he who envelopes the universe. Controlled by him, this work of creation unfolds itself, that which is regarded as earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of the subtle plane? Sloka 43. The subtle plane, or Antarloka, is the mental emotional sphere that we function in, thought and feeling, and reside in fully during sleep and after death. It is the astral world that exists within the physical plane. Om. Bhashya. The astral plane is for the most part exactly duplicated in the physical plane, though it is of a more intense rate of vibration. Beings in the higher Antarloka are trained in technology, the arts, and increments of culture to take up bodies in the Bhuloka to improve and enhance conditions within it. It is in this more advanced realm that new inventions are invented, new species created, ideas unfolded, futures envisioned, environments balanced, scientists trained, and artists taught finesse. We function constantly, though perhaps not consciously, in this subtle plane by our every thought and emotion. Here, during sleep and after death, we meet others who are sleeping or who have died. We attend interplane schools, there to advance our knowledge. The Antarloka spans the spectrum of consciousness from the hellish Naraka regions, beginning at the Patala chakra within the feet, to the heavenly realm of divine love in the Visuddha chakra within the throat. The Vedas recount, now there are of a truth 3 worlds, the world of men, the world of the fathers, and the world world of the gods. The world of the gods is verily the best of worlds. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of the causal plane? The causal plane, or Shiva Loka, pulsates at the core of being, deep within the subtle plane. It is the superconscious world where the gods and highly evolved souls live and can be accessed through yoga and temple worship. Om. Bhashya, the causal plane, is the world of light and blessedness, the highest of heavenly regions, extolled in the scriptures of all faiths. It is the foundation of existence, the source of visions, the point of conception, the apex of creation. The causal plane is the abode of Lord Shiva and his entourage of Mahadevas and other highly evolved souls, who exist in their own self-effulgent form, radiant bodies of centillions of quantum light particles. Even for embodied souls, this refined realm is not distant, but exists within man. It is ever present, ever available as the clear white light that illumines the mind, accessed within the throat and cranial chakras, Visuddha, Ajna, and Sahasrara, in the sublime practices of yoga and temple worship. It is in the causal plane that the mature soul, unshrouded of the physical body's strong instinctive pulls and astral body's harsh intellectual stranglehold, resides fully conscious in its self-effulgent form. The Shiva Loka is the natural refuge of all souls. The Vedas intone, where men move at will in the threefold sphere, in the third heaven of heavens, where are realms full of light. In that radiant world make me immortal. Om Namah Shivaya. Does the universe ever end? Is it real? Sloka 45. The universe ends at Mahapralaya, when time, form, and space dissolve in God Shiva, only to be created again in the next cosmic cycle. We call it relatively real to distinguish it from the unchanging reality. Om Namah Shivaya. Bhashya, this universe, and indeed all of existence, is Maya, Shiva's mirific energy. While God is absolutely real, his emanated world is relatively real. Being relatively real does not mean the universe is illusory or non-existent, but that it is impermanent and subject to change. It is an error to say that the universe is mere illusion, for it is entirely real when experienced in ordinary consciousness, and its existence is required to lead us to God. The universe is born, evolves, and dissolves in cycles, much as the seasons come and go through the year. These cycles are inconceivably immense, ending in Mahapralaya, when the universe undergoes dissolution. All three worlds, including time and space, dissolve in God Shiva. This is his ultimate grace. The evolution of all souls is perfect and complete as they lose individuality and return to him. Then God Shiva exists alone in his three perfections until he again issues forth creation. The Vedas state, truly God is one. There can be no second. He alone governs these worlds with his powers. He stands facing beings. He, the herdsman, after bringing forth all worlds, reabsorbs them at the end of time. Om Namah Shivaya. Scriptures speak on three worlds. As threads come out of the spider, as little sparks come out of the fire, so all the senses, all the worlds, all the gods, yea, all beings issue forth from the self. Yajurveda. In heaven there is no fear at all. Thou, O death, art not there. Nor in that place does the thought of growing old make one tremble. There, free from hunger and from thirst, and far from the reach of sorrow, all rejoice and are glad. Yajurveda. This universe is a tree eternally existing, its root aloft, its branches spread below. The pure root of the tree is Brahman, the immortal, in whom the three worlds have their being, whom none can transcend, who is verily the self. Yajurveda. The spirit of man has two dwellings, this world and the world beyond. There is also a third dwelling place, the land of sleep and dreams. Resting in this borderland, the spirit of man can behold his dwelling in this world and in the other world afar, and wandering in this borderland, he beholds behind him the sorrows of this world, and in front of him he sees the joys of the beyond. Yajurveda. May God, who in the mystery of his vision and power transforms his white radiance into his many-colored creation, from whom all things come and into whom they all return, grant us the grace of pure vision. Yajurveda. When a man knows God, he is free. His sorrows have an end, and birth and death are no more. When in inner union he is beyond the world of the body, then the third world, the world of the spirit, is found, where the power of the all is, and man has all, for he is one with the one. Yajurveda. Without beginning art thou, beyond time, beyond space. Thou art he from whom sprang the three worlds. Yajurveda. These worlds, tiered one above the other from the lowest to the highest, make up the universe of transmigration. Knowers of reality describe it as the place of effective experience. Mrigendra Gama. All these visibles and invisibles, movables and immovables, are pervaded by me. All the worlds existing in the tattvas, from Shakti to Prithivi, earth, exist in me. Whatever is heard or seen internally or externally is pervaded by me. Sarvajdanatara Agama. The gross body with presence prominent, the subtle body that invisible takes shape, and the causal body that by inference is, all these bodies disappear when merging in the Lord's feet. Tirumantiram. The universe, animate and inanimate, is his body. The universe, animate and inanimate, is his play. The universe, animate and inanimate, is he. The whole universe, animate and inanimate, is a wonder. Nachintanai. O transcendent one, extending through both earth and heaven, ever bright with glory, the king of Shiva Loka, the Lord Shiva presiding at Tiruperunturai, I have no sustenance other than you. Tirumurai. The Supreme dwells within the lotus of the heart. Those who reach his splendid feet dwell endearingly within unearthly realms. Tirukural. There is no baser folly than the infatuation that looks upon the transient as if it were everlasting. Tirukural. Sharvabhadra Mandala, the goodness of all. Swastika is the symbol of auspiciousness and good fortune. Literally, it is well. The right-angled arms of this ancient sun sign denote the indirect way that divinity is apprehended, by intuition and not by intellect. Om. Our souls and world essentially good. Sloka 46. The intrinsic and real nature of all beings is their soul, which is goodness. The world too is God's flawless creation. All is in perfect balance. There are changes, and they may appear evil, but there is no intrinsic evil. Om. Bhashya, the soul radiates love, is a child of God going through its evolutionary process of growing up into the image and likeness of the Lord. Goodness and mercy, compassion and caring are the intrinsic, inherent, or indwelling nature of the soul. Wisdom and pure knowledge, happiness and joy are the intrinsic nature of the soul. Can we believe the soul is anything but goodness itself, purity and all the refined qualities found within superconsciousness? When God is everywhere, how can there be a place for evil? The soul is constantly one with God in its ever-present Satchitananda state at every point in its evolution. How then arises the concept of evil and suffering? Anava, karma, and maya, the play toys of the soul, are the source of this seeming suffering. Like a child, we play with the toys of anava in the playground of maya, fall and are bruised by karma, then run to our loving Lord for solace and release into spiritual maturity. The Vedas pointedly state, as the sun, the eye of the whole world, is not sullied by the external faults of the eyes, so the one inner soul of all things is not sullied by the sorrow of the world, being external to it. Om Namah Shivaya. Why do some souls act in evil ways? Sloka 47. People act in evil ways who have lost touch with their soul nature and live totally in the outer, instinctive mind. What the ignorant see as evil, the enlightened see as the actions of low-minded and immature individuals. Om. Bhashya. Evil is often looked upon as a force against God, but the Hindu knows that all forces are God's forces, even the waywardness of adharma. This is sometimes difficult to understand when we see the pains and problems caused by men against men. Looking deeper, we see that what is called evil has its own mysterious purpose in life. Yes, bad things do happen. Still, the wise never blame God, for they know these to be the return of man's self-created karmas, difficult but necessary necessary experiences for his spiritual evolution. Whenever we are injured or hurt, we understand that our suffering is but the fulfillment of a karma we once initiated, for which our injurer is but the instrument who, when his karma cycles around, will be the injured. Those who perform seemingly evil deeds are not yet in touch with the ever-present God consciousness of their immortal soul. The Vedas rightly admonish, borne along and defiled by the stream of qualities, unsteady, wavering, bewildered, full of desire, distracted, one goes on into the state of self-conceit. In thinking, this is I, and that is mine, one binds himself with himself, as does a bird with a snare. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the source of good and evil? Sloka 48. Instead of seeing good and evil in the world, we understand the nature of the embodied soul in three interrelated parts: instinctive or physical emotional, intellectual or mental, and superconscious or spiritual. Om. Bhashya. Evil has no source, unless the source of evil's seeming be ignorance itself. Still, it is good to fear unrighteousness. The ignorant complain, justify, fear, and criticize sinful deeds, setting themselves apart as lofty Puritans. When the outer or lower instinctive nature dominates, one is prone to anger, fear, greed, jealousy, hatred, and backbiting. When the intellect is prominent, arrogance and analytical thinking preside. When the superconscious soul comes forth, the refined qualities are born: compassion, insight, modesty, and the others. The animal instincts of the young soul are strong. The intellect yet to be developed is non-existent to control these strong instinctive impulses. When the intellect is developed, the instinctive nature subsides. When the soul unfolds and overshadows the well-developed intellect, this mental harness is loosened and removed. When we encounter wickedness in others, let us be compassionate, for truly there is no intrinsic evil. The Vedas say, mind is indeed the source of bondage and also the source of liberation. To be bound to things of this world, this is bondage. To be free from them, this is liberation. Om Namah Shivaya. How can a benevolent God permit evil? Sloka 49. Ultimately, there is no good or bad. God did not create evil as a force distinct from good. He granted the souls the loving edicts of Dharma and experiential choices from very subtle to most crude, thus to learn and evolve. Om. Bhashya. From the pinnacle of consciousness one sees the harmony of life. Similarly, from a mountaintop we see the natural roll of a raging ocean, and the steep cliffs below, they are beautiful. From the bottom of the mountain the ocean can appear ominous and the cliffs treacherous. When, through meditation, we view the universe from the inside out, we see that there is not one thing out of place or wrong. This releases the human concepts of right and wrong, good and bad. Our benevolent Lord created everything in perfect balance. Good or evil, kindness or hurtfulness return to us as the result, the fruit of our own actions of the past. The four dharmas are God's wisdom lighting our path. That which is known as evil arises from the instinctive intellectual nature, which the Lord created as dimensions of experience to strengthen our soul and further its spiritual evolution. Let us be compassionate, for truly there is no intrinsic evil. The Vedas admonish, being overcome by the fruits of this action, he enters a good or an evil womb, so that his course is downward or upward, and he wanders around, overcome by the pairs of opposites. Om Namah Shivaya. Should one avoid worldly involvement? Sloka 50. The world is the bountiful creation of a benevolent God, who means for us to live positively in it, facing karma and fulfilling dharma. We must not despise or fear the world. Life is meant to be lived joyously. Om Namah Shivaya. Bhashya. The world is the place where our destiny is shaped, our desires fulfilled, and our soul matured. In the world we grow from ignorance into wisdom, from darkness into light, and from a consciousness of death to immortality. The whole world is an ashrama in which all are doing sadhana. We must love the world, which is God's creation. Those who despise, hate, and fear the world do not understand the intrinsic goodness of all. The world is a glorious place not to be feared. It is a gracious gift from Shiva himself, a playground for his children, in which to interrelate young souls with the old, the young experiencing their karma while the old hold firmly to their dharma. The young grow, the old know. Not fearing the world does not give us permission to become immersed in worldliness. To the contrary, it means remaining affectionately detached, like a drop of water on a lotus leaf, being in the world but not of it, walking in the rain without getting wet. The Vedas warn, behold the universe in the glory of God, and all that lives and moves on earth. Leaving the transient, find joy in the eternal. Set not your heart on another's possession. Om Namah Shivaya. Scriptures speak on goodness. As one not knowing that a golden treasure lies buried beneath his feet may walk over it again and again, yet never find it, so all beings live every moment in the city of Brahman, yet never find him because of the veil of illusion by which he is concealed. Samaveda. He who knows the fine-drawn thread of which the creatures that we see are spun, who knows the thread of that same thread, he also knows Brahman, the ultimate. Atharvaveda. Sin of the mind, depart far away. Why do you utter improper suggestions? Depart from this place. I do not want you. Go to the trees and the forests. My mind will remain here along with our homes and our cattle. Atharvaveda. O Lord, lead us along the right path to prosperity. O God, you know all our deeds. Take from us our deceitful sin. To you then we shall offer our prayers. Yajurveda. As water descending on mountain crags wastes its energies among the gullies, so he who views things as separate wastes his energies in their pursuit. But as pure water poured into pure becomes the self-same, wholly pure, so too becomes the self of the silent sage, of the one, O Gautama, who has understanding. Yajurveda. When he knows the Atman, the self, the inner life, who enjoys like a bee the sweetness of the flowers of the senses, the Lord of what was and of what will be, then he goes beyond fear. This in truth is that, Yajurveda. He who is pure of mind, intellect, and ego, the senses and their perceptions, is pure in fact, and finds everything pure as well. Sarvajnotara Agama. Turn away from confusion, ignorance, delusion, dream, sleep, or wakefulness, for the Supreme is different from the gross body, from the subtle prana, from thought or intellect or ego. Meditate on consciousness and become one with it. Devikalatara Agama. How is it they received God Shiva's grace, you ask? In the battle of life their bewildered thoughts wandered, they trained their course, and freed of darkness, sought the Lord and adorned his precious holy feet. Tirumantaram. O ye my men, try to get into the habit of meditating and praying to Shiva the Supreme. All your old sins will disappear as the filmy dew evaporates as soon as the sun rises. Tirumurai. Without virtue and penitence, devoid of love and learning, as a leather puppet I went around and fell. He showed me the love and the path and the way to reach the world wherefrom there is no return. Tirumurai. Joy and sorrow both are Maya. The Atman, never from love divided, is the very form of knowledge. Therefore, these two will not touch you. Can a mirage wash away the earth? Nachitanai. O man, be a little patient and see, you will understand who you are. Do not grieve over that which does not merit grief. Joy and sorrow are of the world. You are a conscious being. Nothing can affect you. Arise, be awake. Open the door of heaven with the key of Shiva Dhyana and look, everything will be revealed. Nachintanai. Papaduka Mandala, sin and suffering. Mahakala, great time, presides above creation's golden arch, devouring instants and eons with a ferocious face. He is time beyond time, reminder of this world's transitoriness, that sin and sufferings will pass. Om. Why is there suffering in the world? Sloka 51. The nature of the world is duality. It contains each thing and its opposite, joy and sorrow, goodness and evil, love and hate. Through experience of these, we learn and evolve, finally seeking truth beyond all opposites. Om. Bhashya. There is a divine purpose even in the existence of suffering in the world. Suffering cannot be totally avoided. It is a natural part of human life and the impetus for much spiritual growth for the soul. Knowing this, the wise accept suffering from any source, be it hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, famine, wars, disease, or inexplicable tragedies. Just as the intense fire of the furnace purifies gold, so does suffering purify the soul to resplendence. So also does suffering offer us the important realization that true happiness and freedom cannot be found in the world, for earthly joy is inextricably bound to sorrow, and worldly freedom to bondage. Having learned this, devotees seek a Satguru who teaches them to understand suffering, and brings them into the intentional hardships of sadhana and tapas, leading to liberation from the cycles of experience in the realm of duality. The Agamas explain that which appears as cold or as hot, fresh or spoiled, good fortune and bad, love and hate, effort and laziness, the exalted and the depraved, the rich and the poor, the well-founded and the ill-founded, all this is God himself. None other than him can we know. Om Namah Shivaya. What is sin? How can we atone for it? Sin is the intentional transgression of divine law. There is no inherent or original sin. Neither is there mortal sin by which the soul is forever lost. Through sadhana, worship, and austerities, sins can be atoned for. Om. Bhashya. What men term sin, the wise call ignorance. Man's true nature is not sullied by sin. Sin is related only to the lower, instinctive, intellectual nature as a transgression of dharma. Still, sin is real and to be avoided, for our wrongful actions return to us as sorrow through the law of karma. Sin is terminable, and its effects may be compensated for by penance or prayachita, and good deeds which settle the karmic debt. The young soul, less in tune with his soul nature, is inclined towards sin. The old soul seldom transgresses divine law. Sins are the crippling distortions of intellect bound in emotion. When we sin, we take the energy and distort it to our instinctive favor. When we are unjust and mean, hateful, and holding resentments year after year, and no one but ourselves knows of our intrigue and corruption, we suffer. As the soul evolves, it eventually feels the great burden of faults and misdeeds and wishes to atone. Penance is performed, and the soul seeks absolution from society and beseeches God's exonerating grace. The Vedas say, "Loose me from my sin and from a bond that binds me. May my life swell the stream of your river of right." Om Namah Shivaya. Does hell really exist? Is there a Satan? Sloka 53. There is no eternal hell, nor is there a Satan. However, there are hellish states of mind and woeful births for those who think and act wrongfully, temporary tormenting conditions that lift the fiery forces within. Om. Hell, termed Naraka, is the lower astral realm of the 7 chakras below the Muladhara. It is a place of fire and heat, anguish and dismay, of confusion, despair, and depression. Here, anger, jealousy, argument, mental conflict, and tormenting moods plague the mind. Access to hell is brought about by our own thoughts, words, deeds, and emotions, suppressed antagonistic feelings that court demons and their aggressive forces. Hell is not eternal, nor is there a Satan who tempts man and opposes God's power, though there are devilish beings called Asuras, immature souls caught in the abyss of deception and hurtfulness. We do not have to die to suffer the Naraka regions, for hellish states of mind are also experienced in the physical world. If we do die in a hellish state of consciousness, burdened by unresolved hatred, remorse, resentment, fear, and distorted patterns of thought, we arrive in Naraka fully equipped to join others in this temporary astral purgatory. The Vedas say, sunless and demonic verily are those worlds, and enveloped in blinding darkness, to which all those people who are enemies of their own souls go after death. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the consequence of sinful acts? Sloka 54. When we do not think, speak, and act virtuously, we create negative karmas and bring suffering upon ourselves and others. We suffer when we act instinctively and intellectually without superconscious guidance. Om. Bhashya. We are happy, serene, and stable when we follow good conduct, when we listen to our conscience, the knowing voice of the soul. The superconscious mind, the mind of our soul, knows and inspires good conduct, out of which comes a refined, sustainable culture. Wrongdoing and vice lead us away from God, deep into the darkness of doubt, despair, and self-condemnation. This brings the asuras around us. We are out of harmony with ourselves and our family, and must seek companionship elsewhere amongst those who are also crude, unmindful, greedy, and lacking in self-control. In this bad company, burdensome new karma is created, as good conduct cannot be followed. This papa accumulates, blinding us to the religious life we once lived. Penance and throwing ourselves upon the mercy of God and the gods are the only release for the unvirtuous, those who conduct themselves poorly. Fortunately, our gods are compassionate and love their devotees. The ancient Vedas elucidate, the mind is said to be twofold, the pure and also the impure, impure by union with desire, pure when from desire completely free. Om Namah Shivaya. Does God ever punish wrongdoers? God is perfect goodness, love, and truth. He is not wrathful or vengeful. He does not condemn or punish wrongdoers. Jealousy, vengefulness, and vanity are qualities of man's instinctive nature, not of God. Om Namah Shivaya. Bhashya. There is no reason to ever fear God, whose right hand gesture, Abhyad Mudra, indicates fear not, and whose left hand invites approach. God is with us always, even when we are unaware of that holy presence. He is his creation. It is an extension of himself, and God is never apart from it nor limited by it. When we act wrongly, we create negative karma for ourselves and must then live through experiences of suffering to fulfill the law of karma. Such karmas may be painful, but they were generated from our own thoughts and deeds. God never punishes us, even if we do not believe in him. It is by means of worship of and meditation on God that our self-created sufferings are softened and assuaged. God is the God of all, of the believers within all religions, and of the unbelievers too. God does not destroy the wicked and redeem the righteous, but grants the precious gift of liberation to all souls. The agama state, when the soul gradually reduces and then stops altogether its participation in darkness and inauspicious powers, the friend of the world, God, reveals to the soul the limitless character of its knowledge and activity. Om Namah Shivaya. Scriptures speak of sin and suffering. When to a man who knows all beings have become one with his own self, when furthermore he perceives this oneness, how then can sorrow or delusion touch him? Yajurveda. I glorify him who is of wonderful radiance like the sun, who is the giver of happiness, lovely, benevolent, and the one whom all welcome like a guest. He bestows vigor upon the worshippers. May he, the fire divine, remove our sorrow and give us heroic strength and all-sustaining riches. Rig Veda. I go for refuge to God, who is one in the silence of eternity, pure radiance of beauty and perfection, in whom we find our peace. He is the bridge supreme, which leads to immortality, and the spirit of fire which burns the dross of lower life. Yajurveda. When a seer sees the creator of golden hue, the Lord, the person, the source of Brahma, then seeing a knower, shaking off good and evil and free from stain, he attains supreme equality with the Lord. Atharva Veda. Only by a tranquil mind does one destroy all action, good or bad. Once the self is pacified, one abides in the self and attains everlasting bliss. If the mind becomes as firmly established in Brahman as it is usually attached to the sense objects, who then will not be released from bondage? Yajurveda. Words cannot describe the joy of the soul whose impurities are cleansed in deep contemplation, who is one with his Atman, his own spirit. Only those who feel this joy know what it is. Yajurveda. Even though he causes pain to his patient by applying certain remedies, the physician is not taken to be the cause of the suffering, because in the final analysis he has produced the good that was sought after. Mrigendra Agama. Disputes, worldly associations, and quarrels should be avoided. Not even spiritual disputation should be indulged in, whether good or bad. Jealousy, slander, pomp, passion, envy, love, anger, fear, and misery should all disappear gradually and entirely. Devakalatara Agama. And even if thou wert the greatest of sinners, with the help of the vessel of wisdom thou shalt cross the sea of evil. Even as a burning fire burns all fuel into ashes, the fire of eternal wisdom burns into ashes all works. Bhagavad Gita. The virtuous wife, devotee true and jnani great, those who have done exceeding harm to shock these, their life and wealth will in a year disappear. Tirumantiram. A physician takes various roots, mixes them together into one medicine, and with it cures the disease. Likewise, the great all-knowing physician, by giving to the soul its body, faculties, the world, and all its experiences, cures its disease and establishes it in the bliss of liberation. Nachintanai. O my Lord, the five senses have taken possession of my body and driven me away from your holy feet. I am confused and troubled at heart, like the curd which is being churned. Bestow enlightenment upon me. Tirumurai. As the intense fire of the furnace refines gold to brilliancy, so does the burning suffering of austerity purify the soul to resplendence. Tirukural. Dharma Upanishad, right living. Chaturdharma Mandala, four dharmas. Ankusha, the goad held in Lord Ganesha's right hand, is used to remove obstacles from Dharma's path. It is the force by which all wrongful things are repelled from us, the sharp prod which spurs the dullards onward. Om. What is Dharma? What are its forms? Sloka 56. Dharma is the law of being, the orderly fulfillment of an inherent nature and destiny. Dharma is of four main divisions, which are God's law at work on four levels of our existence: universal, human, social, and personal. Om. Bhashya. When God created the universe, he endowed it with order, with the laws to govern creation. Dharma is God's divine law prevailing on every level of existence, from the sustaining cosmic order to religious and moral laws which bind us in harmony with that order. We are maintained by Dharma, held in our most perfect relationship within a complex universe. Every form of life, every group of men has its Dharma, the law of its being. When we follow Dharma, we are in conformity with the truth that inheres and instructs the universe, and we naturally abide in closeness to God. A-dharma is opposition to divine law. Dharma prevails in the laws of nature and is expressed in our culture and heritage. It is piety and ethical practice, duty and obligation. It is the path which leads us to liberation. Universal Dharma is known as Rita. Social Dharma is Varna Dharma. Human Dharma is known as Asrama Dharma. Our personal Dharma is Svadharma. Hinduism, the purest expression of these four timeless dharmas, is called Sanatana Dharma. The Vedas proclaim, there is nothing higher than Dharma. Verily, that which is Dharma is truth. Om Namah Shivaya. What is signified by universal Dharma? Sloka 57. Universal law, known in the Vedas as Rita, is cosmic order, God's rule at work throughout the physical province. It is the infinite intelligence or consciousness in nature, the sustaining cosmic design and organizing force. Om. Bhashya. Rita is the underlying divine principle and universal law regulating nature, from the voyage of stars in vast galactic orbits to the flux of infinitesimal subatomic energies. Rita is the Tao. It is destiny and the road to destiny. When we are in tune with universal Dharma and realize that man is an integral part of nature and not above it or dominating it, then we are in tune with God. All Hindus feel they are guests on the planet with responsibilities to nature, which, when fulfilled, balance its responsibilities to them. The physical body was granted from nature and returns to it. Nature is exquisitely complex and orderly. The coconut always yields a coconut tree, a lotus, a rose, not another species. How constant nature is, and yet how diverse, for in mass producing its creations, no two ever look exactly alike. Yes, the Hindu knows himself to be a part of nature, and seeks to bring his life into harmony with the universal path, the sustaining cosmic force. The Vedas proclaim, earth is upheld by truth, heaven is upheld by the sun. The solar regions are supported by eternal laws. Rita, the elixir of divine love, is supreme in heaven. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of social dharma? Sloka 58. Social dharma, or Varna dharma, consists of the occupation, duties, and responsibilities we must fulfill as a member of our nation, community, and family. An important aspect of this dharma is religious and moral law. Om. Bhashya. Every human society defines a complex stratification of community interaction. Scholarly, pious souls of exceptional learning are the wise Brahmins. Lawmakers and law enforcers are the guardian Kshatriyas. Bankers and businessmen are merchant Vaishyas. Laborers, workers, and artisans are Sudras. In addition to these four classes, or Varnas, are hundreds of castes, or Jatis. In Hindu societies, class and caste, which dictates one's occupation and community, is largely hereditary. However, these birth-imposed categories can be transcended by the ambitious who enter new careers through education, skill, and persistence. Social dharma is fulfilled in adherence to the laws of our nation, to our community responsibilities, and to our obligations among family and friends. A comprehensive system of duties, morals, and religious observances make up God's law at work in our daily life. Rightly followed, Varna Dharma enhances individual and family progress and ensures the continuity of culture. The Vedas say, when a man is born, whoever he may be, there is born simultaneously a debt to the gods, to the sages, to the ancestors, and to men. Om Namah Shivaya. What is the nature of human dharma? Sloka 59. Human law, or ashrama dharma, is the natural expression and maturing of the body, mind, and emotions through four progressive stages of earthly life: student, householder, elder advisor, and religious solitaire. Om. Bhashya. The four ashramas are stages of striving in pursuit of the purusharthas, righteousness, wealth, pleasure, and liberation. Our first 24 years of life are a time of intense learning. Around age 12, we enter formally the brahmacharya ashrama and undertake the study and skills that will serve us in later life. From 24 to 48, in the grihastha ashrama, we work together as husband and wife to raise the family, increasing wealth and knowledge through our profession, serving the community, and sustaining the members of the other three ashramas. In the vanaprastha ashrama, from 48 to 72, slowly retiring from public life, we share our experience by advising and guiding younger generations. After age 72, as the physical forces wane, we turn fully to scripture, worship, and yoga. This is the sannyasa ashrama, which differs from the formal life of ochre-robed monks. Thus, our human dharma is a natural awakening, expression, maturing, and withdrawal from worldly involvement. The Vedas say, pursuit of the duties of the stage of life to which each one belongs, that verily is the rule. Others are like branches of a stem. With this, one tends upwards, otherwise downwards. Om Namah Shivaya.